Welcome to episode 111 of the Camerosity Podcast, the world's oldest open source film and digital photography podcast. My name is Mike Ekman, and despite record heat waves over large areas of the world, we're back for another show. On the last episode, we dedicated number 110 to cameras that use the 110 film format. Pocket Instamatic cameras were originally conceived by Kodak as inexpensive and simple to operate point-and-shoot cameras, but eventually evolved into a rather capable format. With film only available through boutique retailers, shooting 110 cameras isn't for everyone. But if you were interested in learning more about these small cameras, check out our last show. Tonight's episode comes from the Discord suggestion box. There has been a higher than usual amount of discussion regarding Japanese auctions as an alternative to buying on eBay. And for those of you who live in countries other than Japan, the thought of buying cameras through a proxy service might sound terrifying. So tonight we thought we'd talk about it. For those who have bought direct from a Japanese auction to those who have only thought about it, hopefully after tonight's episode you'll be closer to making a decision about it. Before we begin, I should acknowledge something that the combined 5 hosts of the show all forgot about. Last month, the show celebrated its 5th anniversary of the recording of the first 2 episodes of what would become the Camerosity Podcast. We couldn't have done this without all of your support and feedback, so we just wanted to say a quick thanks, and hopefully here's to another 5 years. I can see the waiting room is starting to fill up, so let's get started.
Did I miss cake?
Yeah, we ate it already. Sorry.
Damn.
All right. We got a lot of people here. We have the usual hosts. We have some of our regulars joining us tonight. AJ, Will Pinkham, Greg Harp is back. Ira Cohen's here. Ron G. Welcome back, Ron.
Thanks.
Heath. I don't recognize Heath. You want to say a quick hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Heath. I live in Frederick, Maryland, just north of D.C. Just gotten into film and camera collecting within the last 10 years or so. Happy to join.
Awesome. Marty Olson, have you been on the show before?
I have a couple other times. I haven't had a chance to introduce myself, though. I'm from Tennessee. I was in photography 20 years ago, and then I went digital, and now I've seen the light and come back to film for about a year or so.
Awesome. Well, it's great. Jody Oliver, do you want to say hello?
Hey, how's it going? It's my first time calling in.
Where are you calling from?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I just got back from a real long tour with my band, and this podcast kept me very entertained in the van for long drives.
It's Jody Lee on Discord.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
You got to meet Joel. He showed up for one of your shows, didn't he?
Yeah, he came by and shot the show on his digital Leica, and it was pretty awesome. Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I'm excited to go on tour and meet more of you guys.
What kind of band?
We're an indie rock band called Arts Fishing Club. We're based here in Nashville, Tennessee.
My son had an indie rock band like that, or as I called it, orphan music, because nobody liked it and nobody wanted it.
I know. This is our first profitable tour, so you're not far off.
Awesome. Well, good luck, and thanks for coming on and finding time to join with us. All right, so we quickly did a quick introduction from the Discord, something that's been talked about a lot lately. There seems to be an uptick, even though it's not really new. We have a couple people here that I know are very experienced with Japanese auctions. I just personally got into it within the last 6 months or so. Ira's here. I know, Ira, you've been buying from Buyeeing through Japanese auctions for quite some time. Steven, you're a grizzled veteran. Greg's had some experiences. I'm sure several of you. Norris Liu just jumped in. He's got some experiences. So let's just start really high level. I assume anybody who's listening to this show is well aware of eBay, the de facto place of getting a majority of what we usually buy. eBay has its ups and downs. It's certainly not perfect, but worldwide, it's probably the biggest used camera marketplace just by sheer volume. You can buy from it. You can sell through it, practically any country except Russia. But, there's this kind of like subculture. I don't know. Maybe it's too big to call it a subculture anymore, but Japan has its own set of auctions that are rather locked down. That's kind of the general topic we want to talk about here tonight. So rather than have me ramble, maybe let's hand it over to Steven. Give us a quick high level. What are Japanese auctions? But more importantly, what aren't they? Like, how would you describe it to someone who just has no idea what we're even talking about?
Sorry, you have to give me a second. I am literally just buying something on Buyeeing right now. I got the email. There was a notification. Really, if you want to snag the deals, you want the save searches set up in the emails. And I just got something that I missed out on the last time, submitting my PayPal information, and it's complete.
What was it?
A leather body jacket for an Olympus Pen F camera. And I don't own that camera, but I own grips and cases and things for it in the knowledge that someday, eventually, I will have the camera. So some really dangerous gas.
Steven's gas is the most extreme, I think, in that you've bought whole cameras because you had a lens hood or a filter or something, didn't you?
I had a hood for a lens, but I didn't have the lens. So I bought the lens, which came with a body, which I decided I actually wanted to use with a different lens. So I bought that lens, which didn't come with a hood. So I had to then buy a hood. And earlier this morning, I got a notification that I had won an auction that I had forgotten I'd even placed a bid on. And it was actually that I have a Sigma lens in Olympus 4/3 mount that didn't come with a hood. Could have bought the hood for $20. And instead I placed a $40 bid on the same lens in Nikon mount with the hood, so I could get the hood, and I won that. So now I've got the hood coming, but also a Nikon mount version of the lens as well.
Now, hang on. Before we move on to the Buyeeing piece, now I need to dig into this a little bit further. Stephen, we've seen this story over and over again. You've got something, camera related, and suddenly you have to buy a whole camera and says, what's the smallest accessory or the most insignificant accessory you've ever had, which has actually caused you to go and buy a camera to actually match it up with?
It might be that hood. I feel like perhaps even maybe a wrist strap has done it to me, but I'm not sure I recall. It's definitely one thing leading to another, but I've done it so many times. Like I had a grip for a camera and I thought, oh, you know what? I'll buy a camera to go with this grip. And then I decided I actually would like a different grip on it instead. And I had to do that. I've even bought a camera because I thought the red trim on it would match the red trim on a lens, and it turned out it didn't. So then I had to go out and buy a different lens for that camera. It's really it's a slippery slope, but I'm justifying it to myself.
Stephen is the gas equivalent of if you give a mouse a cookie, basically.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the thing I've realized is I do buy a lot of things, especially from Japan, but they're very cheap things usually. I think it was Norris on the Discord was saying that he got a notification that if he had a consolidated shipment that was 200,000 yen or more, that there would be extra fees for customs brokerage, paperwork, and that they might recommend splitting it up because it might get delayed in arriving to the country. And I thought, I've never received that. I've had orders of 12 items or 15 items combined into one order, but I've never come close to that much. So a lot of things, but a lot of cheap things, a lot of broken cameras as well that I have to fix up.
So that's a long intro. So let's get to what is it? Like, what are we talking about here from the perspective of someone who's maybe new to collecting? You're obviously aware of Facebook Marketplace, eBay, but what is this Buyeeing? What is this Japan auctions? Like, what is it?
Well, in Japan, you don't have eBay. So instead you have Yahoo Auctions Japan. You've got Kijiji in Canada, Craigslist in the US, and some places do use Mercari, but the sort of alternative to those is also Mercari in Japan, a marketplace where people can sell things. These are set up just for people within Japan with addresses in Japan and emails, phone numbers, and credit cards, everything set up there. Even in some cases, they're set up to receive payments by people walking into their local convenience store and sending a payment that way. So it's not something that's generally accessible to people outside of Japan. And that's where these proxy services like Buyeeing or From Japan have set up to allow people outside of Japan to make these purchases. And they're a service that handles not only the payment locally within Japan, but also have warehouses where all of your items will be shipped to a warehouse in Japan. And then you can have them forwarded to you or build up a few in the warehouse, consolidate them all into one single shipment and ship them all together to yourself.
So this is limited to people who live in Japan. The proxies extend that to outside the Japan. You're never interacting with Yahoo then when you make these purchases directly, right?
Correct. You're just dealing with your proxy service.
Which is Buyeeing.
Buyeeing is probably the biggest. Some people have some strong opinions on theirs. It isn't perfect. From Japan, which is care of One Map, whatever that is, it's very similar. Aren't there like others, like smaller proxies?
One of the interesting things that we've discovered recently is that through a trail of 3 or 4 different companies, Buyeeing and Yahoo Auctions Japan are actually both owned by the exact same parent company. So there is a connection there. It does mean that maybe some of these coupons and these things, that the fees that Buyeeing is charging and the fees that Yahoo is charging, it's all going ultimately to the same parent company. And then other sites like Mercari, they just have an agreement with, they have a sort of an official sponsorship. So if you just visit Yahoo Auctions Japan or Mercari Japan, and they can detect that you're doing that from outside of Japan, they will actually pop up banner ads suggesting you use Buyeeing because of the affiliations or the joint ownership of these companies.
So they're completely okay with us doing this. I had seen a comment from someone perhaps who thought that they didn't like that people outside of Japan had access to buy this stuff, but you're not doing anything illegal or illicit or against the rules. They welcome this because it opens up the potential marketplace to more people.
Yeah, it's for the entire world instead of just in Japan.
Right.
They give their sellers the option to opt out of that, right? So I think any of us have used it, have seen the sales, whether it's a direct sale or an auction, where it says, the seller doesn't choose to work with the proxy services. So it's an above board, understood, documented thing, and you can opt out of it.
Every once in a while, you come across an auction that says you cannot bid on this auction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then I call Naomi and ask her to bid on it for me.
Well, and there can actually be lots of reasons you can't bid on it. That's the most common, right? That the person just chooses not to. There are also cases where it may be an item that they don't feel they can ship internationally. They call it a prohibited item. And sometimes they get that wrong. You see a lot of times where they'll say that, it contains something that is a restricted item. I had that with buying X-ray camera lenses. I had to convince them that this was not X-ray equipment. They reviewed it a couple of times and finally approved it. So there are different reasons they restrict purchases, but the most common is just that the seller has said, no, I don't want to deal with the proxy services.
I couldn't believe when I bought a Doru pistol-shaped camera. It didn't get stopped by customs, didn't get stopped by anybody. I didn't even have to sign for it. It just arrived one day in the mail.
It is kind of hit or miss. They do have an appeal process. If you do encounter an auction that Buyeeing won't let you purchase, you could ask them to review it. And I did that actually recently. And I wanted to know, why is it that I'm restricted? And they said that because that seller requires buyers to contact them within 24 hours at the close of the sale. And Buyeeing can't do that on your behalf. So they just don't allow. So sometimes Buyeeing will just mark the entire seller, no matter what the item is. They won't let you buy it through there. So Greg, if you want to buy something through Buyeeing and you get that message, you can't buy this option, what other recourses do you have?
Well, in fact, you can try the other proxy services. I have found that sometimes it's restricted at one proxy service and not the others. Short of that, I think, like Ira said, you phone a friend. If you have a friend in Japan, you can obviously get around that. But my only understanding of how to deal with that is just try the other proxy services, because sometimes they don't restrict them all. And it's weird because you'll see they're restricted on one, but not the other. And it's not like a rule of one or the other.
Yeah, I tried bidding on a camera last week on Buyeeing, and they said I couldn't bid above a certain amount. I wrote to I don't know who I wrote to, actually. I think it was part of Buyeeing. I said, I bought stuff for a lot more money than this. Why am I being restricted? Then they took the restriction off. So, I don't know. It is hit or miss.
And they all have rules like that, too. They have dollar limits for an individual auction or purchase. I have found that From Japan can also have a dollar limit or a yen limit, let's be accurate, a yen limit for outstanding sniper bids, because they had a time where they ran a really good coupon and I stacked up so many sniper bids, I found the limit. And not that I was expecting all of those to go through, but it was interesting to run against that wall.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that the sniper bids on Buyeeing are different than the ones on eBay. On eBay, when the auction ends, it ends. On Buyeeing, if somebody wants a bid above you, even after the auction ends, they will continue the auction until one of you runs out of money or nerve.
That's Yahoo Auctions that does that, or whatever the end service is, rather than Buyeeing itself. There's a major other one that's being used as well, which is Zen Market. I've used that multiple times as well, and I've found that to be quite good. That's Japanese as well. But Zen Market is the very same concept. Backends onto Yahoo and all those other auction sites, and allows you to combine shipping as well. So there is a few options out there. Buyeeing is not the only one, so you can sort of go to a few different ones if you need to.
Compartmentalist wanted to say something.
It's NP. You can just call me NP. But yeah, that I was just agreeing with you there. I use Zen Market too. I think they're based in Osaka, not Tokyo, like maybe the main Buyeeing warehouse is. But still, it's the same concept. I think the big thing that I've heard from just talking with some of you guys actually on the Discord is that the biggest difference is that Zen Market wants you to put funds in first. So you can't just pay with a credit card. You have to give them some money. They can give it back to you if you decide not to. But usually I just decide if I'm going to get something, I'm just going to get something rather than try to take money out, because then you get into the whole converting dollars to yen and then back and who knows.
I believe Buyeeing does this. I know From Japan does this. And then Zen Market, like you said, does it by default, which is that you can put a deposit in. And to the point of Ira talking about hitting the dollar limit, when I had that situation that I had, I actually was presented the option so I could make a deposit and I could go above the dollar limit. So they do all have that concept. If you don't use the funds, they'll hold it for something like 20, 21 days and return it to you. According to everything I've read on there, I haven't played with it, but they all have different payment, PayPal, credit cards, different options for payment methods. But Zen Market does seem to default to the deposit method. And NP, did you say that after you build a reputation with Zen Market that they will let you start using alternative means, but you have to start off with the deposit method?
Once you've made, I don't remember off the top of my head, but they have like a preferred customer kind of program where once you've hit so many yen in purchases, then they give you a credit. You don't have to put money in right away, and they'll hold your stuff for up to 30 days before they start demanding payment. So I take advantage of that a lot. I just actually bought a lens over from Zen Market a couple hours back. So my limit is currently at 37,000 yen. I should say my balance.
We're already touching on some of the differences. We want to differentiate this between being a Japanese eBay and, something else, because it isn't, right? Like, I mean, it is auctions. So there is a similarity there. It does have a website that loosely can be in English. The translations aren't always great. I have not used all the proxies. The two that I have the most experience with are Buyeeing and From Japan. And I think it's probably unanimous. From Japan's website is cleaner, a little bit easier to use. They're all a little slow, a little awkward, but they are usable. But Ira touched upon, I think, one of the big differences between how Yahoo auctions work versus Buyeeing and how the auctions end. So do you want to just kind of elaborate a little bit more on kind of what you were saying there, Ira?
If you put a snipe bid in on eBay, I think it's like 5 seconds before the end of the auction. If you put a snipe bid in for like $40 and somebody else put in a snipe bid for $38, you're going to win that auction. With Buyeeing, you put a snipe bid in at $40 at the end. I think they don't put it in right at the end. They give you a little bit of time and they notify the other bidder, you've been outbid and everything. And that person, if they do make another bid, the auction will be extended.
Yeah, it's called a soft close, right? And this is something that a lot of auctions, in fact, eBay is one of the few sites that doesn't do soft close. Traditional, hammer and auctioneer type auctions, they're doing going once, going twice, all of that.
Yeah, you can't put a snipe bid in a real auction.
Well, and not only that, the snipe bids are baked into all these services, whereas with eBay doesn't even offer a built-in sniper. You have to use a third-party tool.
Right.
So this is flat out encouraged by, and we keep saying Buyeeing and From Japan, but this is all Yahoo auctions that's actually doing this. The proxies are just following the rules. But that soft close, now I know not everyone will agree with what I'm about to say, but I feel like it lessens the effectiveness of the sniper bid, because if I put the snipe in, it's not really a sniper. It's more of a like, hey, I'm going to bid. Anyone else want to bid too? And you could see, I've seen auctions last over an hour beyond their original close time because people keep going in there.
Yep. I've had one auction that I expected to do the normal thing and it didn't. Another bidder and I were going at it down to the last second and it never extended. So it must be an option, but it's just not one that's selected very commonly. I assume an option that's selectable by the seller. But soft close always favors the seller, right? If people are going to keep one-upping each other on bidding, that's definitely better for the seller and harder for the buyer, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had one auction that didn't do it. And I had no idea up until the last 5 minutes as we were bidding and it wasn't extending that was going to happen.
Another big thing that you'll see a lot, especially with Buyeeing, but From Japan does it too, some of the other ones, are coupons. So who wants to share their thoughts on all the coupons?
What do you do with the coupons? I have like 48 coupons for the last X number of years. I don't know what to do with them.
Well, they have time limits.
Yeah, they'll offer coupons for different services. So they might be the J Direct Items auction and the flea market and Mercari or Rakuma or the many different stores that these proxies support, because it's not just the Yahoo Japan auctions that they support. And they'll have, Buyeeing will run a coupon for 2 or 3 weeks. That might be 10% off of a bid that closes over 3,000 yen or something like that's a common term for them. From Japan has been running 24-hour coupons every weekend, just coming into the weekend, 5 to 10%, depending on the weekend. But I checked my deleted items in my email and I had one for every weekend for the last several weekends. So they do different things, but theirs are always very short with very similar terms. It'll be minimum bid of this and discount up to this. And it's usually the discount is something like up to 30,000 yen. So, or even I've seen 50,000 yen maximum discount. So pretty large limit if you're going to make a purchase like that.
And we've seen recently that not everybody gets the same coupons. There was one, I think it ends today or tomorrow, where some of us had a 12% and some of us had a 10%. So not every person is eligible to get, like if you're a new bidder, you may see different coupons than someone who's been doing it a long time too. So that's kind of a neat, maybe not neat, but that's an interesting distinction to make too.
There are also some interesting catches that the expiry time is based on when you place the bid. So if an auction is ending 4 or 5 days after a coupon ends, as long as you've entered a bid before that time, your coupon is active for that auction. You can, even if you're doing sniper bids, you can edit that bid and the coupon will still apply. But there's also the trick of if it's items over 8,000 yen and you bid 9,000 yen, it lets you select the coupon and that item closes at only 5,000 yen. You're paying the 5,000 yen without the coupon because it did not reach the coupon value.
When they send out these, especially since I tend to use From Japan and they have the 24-hour coupons, as I find myself redoing any sniper bids I have outstanding during that window. So as soon as that email comes out, I go in and redo all my snipers, even if they're a week out.
What do you mean by redo a sniper bid? What does that mean?
You go in and you can edit the sniper bid at that point and you can add the coupon because you haven't been bidding. And that's another catch, right? Stephen, I think they all do this. I know Buyeeing does this and I think From Japan does this. If you have been bidding in an auction, whatever coupon you did or did not apply at the beginning of bidding, if you're just doing normal bidding, is locked in, right? So you don't get to add a coupon. You don't change the coupon. If you already added one, you keep it. But the moment you actually start bidding, you're locked in on a coupon. So if you didn't have one and you were bidding and a coupon comes out, you can't apply it to an auction you were bidding on. So it works great for sniper bids because those don't count. You're not actually bidding. You're just planning to bid, if you will. So I tend to do that. I put a sniper bid in when I see something I like. It's almost my watch list, although they do have watch lists as well. I'll put in a bid on something I like. I'll delete it if I decide, in the last 24 hours I don't want it. But I'll go in and edit those to add a coupon in whenever they put the coupons out. That's been my strategy lately.
Yeah, that's a very good way to do it, is to keep an eye for those coupons and update everything. I also find it handy that I've had cases where I've had an item over a certain amount and my bid is even higher than that as a sniper bid. And then someone will list either a buy it now style auction or something on Mercari that can be purchased right away for a lower price, or it's a better condition item. So I'll just go ahead and buy that and delete my sniper bid before the other auction ends.
Yeah, that's the other great thing is sniper bids are cancelable up to about 5 or 10 minutes before the end of the auction.
Somebody just put a notice about the condition of stuff that you buy from Japan.
That was Jeremy asking that.
All right. If you go on Buyeeing and everything, you'll find that a lot of equipment is called junk. You'll find that a lot of stuff is called near mint. Meanwhile, you find out it's banged up and it has fungus and everything. So it's like everything else, caveat emptor.
I would say, yeah, some of the stuff that's marked junk is near mint and some of the stuff that's near mint is junk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't somebody tell me that that's a result of some legal thing where they're not obligated to offer a warranty or something?
It's an out. They don't have to stand behind anything.
And if they say it's junk and you bought it anyway, you're stuck with it. There's no return.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of saying for parts or repair on eBay. So in some cases, it just means somebody hasn't tested it or doesn't know how to test it, and they're listing it as junk to avoid the liability if it doesn't work. But it might be perfectly working, or it might be junk.
Almost rare to find a camera item that isn't marked junk on there because they just do it by default.
And what I think is funny is we always laughed on eBay, the Japanese sellers, everything's top mint. Everything's excellent with 50 plus marks and exclamation points at the end of it. Yet you don't see that at all. Like, it's almost the complete opposite. Everything is junk on Buyeeing or Yahoo or from Japan. Whereas when those same people sell on eBay, everything's top mint excellent with 15 exclamation points.
Which is funny because a few years ago, that was the reverse, right?
Yeah.
A few years back, it was like, hey, if it's coming from Japan, it'll be described as okay, and it'll show up and it'll be better than anything you could get in the States. And yeah, I think they've taken advantage of that quite a bit on eBay anyway.
Yeah.
You'll also see things described as excellent condition, and they mean cosmetically it looks excellent from the outside, but it could be full of fungus and the aperture blades are seized shut, completely closed so that no light whatsoever can pass through. And even if it could, the focusing mechanism is seized, so it's not going to matter anyway. But it looks good from the outside.
There's a lot of common threads you see in the descriptions of, it's perfect, but it's also junk. And it's, I'm not a camera expert and I've never tested this, but everything works perfectly. And I don't know how much of that is translation and how much of it is copy and paste. It's almost part of the fun is just reading the descriptions for some of the auctions.
So for the people who have experience with any of these, Ira, Greg, myself, Stephen, what would you say your ratio is to, of all the stuff you've ever gotten, how much of it has been worse than you expected it to be, as expected, better than expected? Like, where would your split be on that?
50-50.
Really? So you've had quite a few worse.
Yeah, it's always 50-50.
Okay. What about you, Stephen?
I'd say that things are in pretty good condition cosmetically because I can see what they're going to look like from the photos. But I've definitely had more pleasant surprises where something turns out to be working or functioning perfectly when it was sold without a battery untested, that I'm usually happier than I am disappointed.
Right.
One thing I have run into, and this is something that's been discussed a lot lately on the Discord, is you do sometimes get something that is not the item that you paid for.
Oh, yes.
That's Greg's story. That's obviously a huge problem. But in terms of just the sellers, the actual item, assuming you get it, are these people willingly, maliciously ripping people off? Or do you really feel like you're getting something at least close to what you expected to receive? In my experience, which is much less than all of yours, I've only been doing this for 6 months, nearly everything I've ever received has been at least as good as I expected it to be, with maybe one where it's like, okay, I kind of wish this was nicer. But I would say that I've been pleasantly surprised, if not happy, with the condition of my items.
I would say the titles are overly optimistic all the time, but that the descriptions are very honest. So as long as you take the time to read through the descriptions, I think it's pretty accurate and fair.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And look at the pictures. I was looking at a Baldac set, which is up there right now, and I was almost ready to pull that trigger because for the price, it looks just like the Super Pontura, but smaller. I thought it'd be a nice companion, but then I could clearly see in one of the images, there's a wheel that's supposed to be on one side of the camera and it's completely missing. And I could see a brass gear under it is like completely sheared off. So even though the description made it sound like it was a nice camera and the price was right, I could very clearly see through the pictures that this camera had a major issue, and therefore I didn't bid on it, regardless of how it was described.
Yeah, I would say the photos are the main thing. The descriptions are hit and miss. Some of them are very good. Some of them are boilerplate. You probably see fewer professional photos and fewer edited photos than you see on eBay. On eBay, you see some things where it's been pushed through software that either, we used to say it was photoshopped, but now, of course, it's been edited by AI or something. And you see these beautiful pictures and you get the thing and it's got dirt and mold and everything all over it. I would say the pictures are more honest. So they're pretty valuable for what you can to do to assess the quality of something. I don't think I've had, short of my one event where I just got the wrong stuff, I don't think I've had a case where I got something that was just unlike what I expected.
Has anyone tried buying film on there? I'm checking out now. There's like a film section. Looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, I bought some film.
How was it?
It's like any other expired film or whatever.
Yeah.
Unlike buying from an eBay seller when you're in North America, let's say, you're probably not sending it back, right? So whatever you get is very likely going to stick with you. So especially for film, you should definitely assume that you're not going to get any images. It's experimental only. But that said, I've bought a couple of fairly large lots of quite expired, both color and black and white film. And I've gotten good images. And some of that's just up to how you use it, how you photograph it. But yeah, you just assume that, whatever you got is going to come and it's going to turn to dust as soon as you open it. And then you always have a happy experience when it's not that, right? So
I've wondered about buying it internationally and worrying about being x-rayed as it goes through international borders and things like that. Just with buying film generally internationally. Our friend Vlad, I'm actually testing some film for him that came from Brazil that did not get marked. And we're wondering whether it got fogged in import because it spent quite a long time there. So you always worry about that, and knowing the conditions of that packing and shipping, since there's a proxy in the process and they don't tend to mark unexposed film or undeveloped film, please do not x-ray, for whatever that's worth. I wondered about that. So you've had film turn out, at least it didn't appear to be fogged from that?
Yeah, I mean, but to kind of ride off of what Steven said earlier, like I don't spend lots of money. I buy lots of little stuff, but not any really big stuff. So I haven't bought, like, for example, I'm not buying 8x10 sheets of Provia or Velvia and hoping that comes through fine. Although I would imagine that a very low speed film like Provia or Velvia is probably okay in terms of being exposed, unless they're putting it through like a CT scanner, which I don't know, maybe they do that as a matter of course these days. But I'm talking about like stuff that was originally 100 speed. I bought some old Sakura color from 77 or so. So even if it was really good, it wasn't super high ISO. And, the fact that it was so expired probably means it's even less sensitive to that kind of thing. I just didn't worry about it. And again, I expected that when it got to me, maybe I'd get some cool cassettes and throw that in the collection. And otherwise I wasn't going to worry about it. But, I overexpose it and it comes out. So it's good.
Well, and you said once you get it, you're unlikely to ever send it back. So you definitely do not get to enjoy the buyer protections. We've talked many times. eBay is very heavily favoring the buyers, almost to the point where it sucks sometimes as a seller on eBay. With these Japanese auctions, internationally, you're probably never going to send it back. But in addition to that, you really don't even have any contact with the seller. Like, you can't ask any questions. Even though they do have buy it now, there's no like make an offer. If you have any questions for that seller, I have noticed on occasion, I've seen if it's a store, they will put the name of the store in the description. So I suppose you could probably Google and see if you could figure out a way and see if they speak English. But it's really not set up that way. You don't have any contact with the seller at all for most people's experiences with this. So that's another thing to be considerate of. You're buying internationally. There's the risk you may not get the thing that you ordered. International shipping is inherently risky. We haven't even started talking about tariffs yet if you're in the US. And you can't even really contact the seller to ask any questions or follow up or anything. Or, hey, this isn't as I described. Can you offer a partial refund? There's really none of that.
I will say, though, Mike, that at least through Zen Market, so it's a little weird. I haven't ever tried to contact an auction seller through Zen Market, but Zen Market's support is good enough that I think that you probably could. I have, though, contacted some of the stores through them, and so they'll do a translation and they'll get back to you.
That's good.
I imagine that other services can do that as well. I mean, because, they're there, so they could, in theory, they should be able to reach out to the seller. I would say for an auction where you're only dealing with a couple of days, it may not be worth it. But if it's something that's listed as, more or less like a buy it now that's going to be up there until it sells, it's probably a better bet.
It's good to know. All right. So consolidated shipping. Steven, you're the king of this. Honestly, if I'm listening to this show and I've never done any of this before, I feel like there's more cons so far than pros. In my opinion, the consolidated shipping is a huge plus. So give us the lowdown on that.
Well, if you're going to ship one small light item from Japan, I find it's actually cheaper than shipping from eBay. If you get into the larger things, you're paying probably about the same price.
On a single camera, you could spend $40 in shipping international.
Exactly.
Domestically, if you're used to paying $12, $15, $40 on a $40 camera may not be appealing to you.
And if you can consolidate things so that you can get 8 cameras for $80, it's a much better deal overall.
Yeah.
One thing I should note is that you do have to pay for domestic shipping within Japan. So that doesn't apply to all auctions. Quite often, Yahoo auctions are buyer must pay domestic shipping. So the cost of shipping from the seller to the buyee or from Japan warehouse, you'll have to pay that. Not when the auction ends, but at least with buyee, they do it when you pay for the shipping to yourself. So that gets added in. Usually with Mercari, it's shipping domestically within Japan is paid by the seller, but not always. So there are exceptions for both. And you do have to sort of be aware of what is what when you're paying for that, because you can end up with buying 8 things and they're all seller paid the shipping domestically within Japan. So you've got a nice, cheap, consolidated shipping cost to you. Or it could be that every single item you bought is that the winner has to pay for domestic shipping within Japan. And so you're paying all of those all added up. And then also on top of it, the cost of shipping to you in whatever country you're in. And so it can add up and get quite expensive.
Yeah. My last auction, I racked up 10 things in one consolidated shipment. And cumulatively, all 10 of those domestic shippings added up to more than the entire international shipping was. So it still, in the end, was worth it, but it is a cost you need to pay attention to if you're going nuts buying, little things. Because a lot of the domestic shipping is usually, I've noticed, between like 800 and 1,500 yen. Which doesn't sound like a lot, because about 1,000 yen translates to about $6 to $7 US. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you did 10 of them, that's $60 to $70 on top of international shipping, on top of tariffs, on top of usually a 500 yen fee. You may want to add additional insurance. For people in the US, I don't know how this is in Canada, there's 2 different shipping methods. There's air mail, and then there's the ECMS, which from my experience, the amount of time it takes to get to you isn't significantly different. So it seems like perhaps the cheaper option is better. But one of you pointed out that could cause problems with paperwork too. So you just don't know.
The other services offer, like From Japan offers, you can choose all the usual shipping companies plus ECMS. They've all stopped using Japan Post, I believe. I know with From Japan, you can choose, as a U.S. recipient at least, you can choose for the prepaid duties where they charge you a fee that is a percent maybe larger than the duties and the fees and everything. There's a processing fee and all of that, and they take care of prepaying the duties as you purchase the item and ship it. Or you can do the unpaid and take your chances with the shipping provider, and they'll charge you a fee for that privilege as well. And you've got to do the math of whether or not that's a better deal for you. It sometimes could be. Yeah, you can definitely have sticker shock where you consolidate 10, 12 items. And let's say you want to do the fastest shipping and everything else, and you end up with a $300 bill at the end of the process. My sad story of my 1 yen Canon FX that I bought that could probably cost me $40 to land in the US.
You got to keep track of the costs. You have to really know this stuff. So I wouldn't recommend these types of auctions for the brand new collector or someone who's just not that experienced with stuff, because you have to kind of do that algebra in your head and say, is this still worth it? Most cases it can be, but not always. I've noticed that there are certain things like Leicas, which often go for quite a bit more in the Japanese auctions. And sometimes I even see them go for in eBay, because that brand is so highly valued in Japan. And remember, we're international. Everyone on this podcast is international to Japan, but people in Japan are bidding on this stuff too through the native Yahoo Auctions market. So you're competing with domestic buyers, you're competing with international buyers. And if there just happens to be a brand that's a luxury item like Leica would be, your prices may actually go up. American cameras sometimes sell for way more than we could get them here in America, which makes sense because they're less common over there. But it is not true that everything automatically across the board is cheaper there. I've noticed actually highly collectible stuff. To me, they shouldn't allow this, but they seem to not give a crap, where auctions get pulled constantly if it doesn't reach whatever dollar amount the seller was hoping for. Greg, you were showing one. It's been like listed and relisted like 12 different times. And you got to the point where you were just throwing bids out for laughs because you knew even if you won, you wouldn't win.
Yeah, I've watched this one camera sell. He's had buy it now prices. He's had auctions. I'm assuming a he. Anybody that's that mean has got to be a he, right? People have won the auction for this camera, and then it shows up again the next day. We talked about, are they scamming? Well, it's always been the same seller. So I don't think they're scamming. I think they're just canceling the sale. And Yahoo, again, favors the seller so much that they let them do that. I've had that. I won one and got a notice from Buyeeing that my purchase was canceled.
Everything we're saying here really applies to eBay too. I mean, any of these things could happen on any auction site. Like what Greg said, I think the Yahoo auctions and the Japanese markets do have more favor, or they turn a blind eye maybe for the sellers to do shady things. Whereas in eBay, like Paul, you would never be able to get away with that. In fact, Paul, you got dinged because you shipped something, or didn't you cancel like one too many auctions and they lowered your rating or something and it raised your fees? It was like 2 years ago.
I think it would happen twice in 6 months or something. And it took me below a level that I was no longer top rated.
Yeah.
Which meant that I paid an extra couple percentage points on fees. And I didn't get quite as good visibility. But, it was all based on volume. So as I sell more, then my percentage gets better, and it dropped off after a few months. And it was all good.
When especially if you're a regular dealer or you have an eBay store, these sellers are highly incentivized to be honest, whereas maybe in some of these other ones, not so much. They can kind of get away with stuff. But even though that kind of sounds nefarious, we mentioned a little earlier that more times than not, things do work out okay. I don't fundamentally think that Japanese sellers are dishonest people. I just think there's just a sampling of those kinds of dishonest people in every country. There's going to be scammers everywhere. It can happen. It's just, unfortunately, if it does happen to you on an international sale, you have less recourse than you do through eBay. So the consolidated shipping is great because, to be clear, on eBay, if you buy from the same seller, they will often consolidate. But on the Japanese auctions, it can be anybody. You could even consolidate things from more than one store. You could buy Pokemon cards through one of the retailers that Buyeeing supports, and then a camera, and they'll ship it to a warehouse that Buyeeing owns or From Japan owns. Employees there will open your package, rewrap it, put it in an all new box, and then ship it to you. So if you have 10 items in a consolidated shipment, those may have come from 10 completely different sellers. You will get them all wrapped in a box sent to you all at once. And Greg, you recently showed a picture of the quality of shipping that you received on a From Japan box. And did you say that it was measurably higher than previous Buyeeing shipments?
Yeah, so certainly my experience, there are people who've had variable experiences, and over time, my experience, I had a good number of packages from Buyeeing and now a good number from Japan. As a rule, I found the From Japan packages, everything is individually bubble wrapped and then taped together in a big bag, and usually has a big cardboard shell around it inside the box. I've been very pleased when you have a big jumble of things, from a press camera to a Barnack type rangefinder in the same box, and I feel like they came protected. The Buyeeing ones are, my experience, they're all overwrapped. They charge you an extra, or they offer you a 1,500 yen fee to repackage everything for you. But they're just sort of in the box in their bubble wrap, so they're able to shift around. So that's been an improvement as I switched over to From Japan that I like. But I think people have had different experiences. It's just been mine. So I would say, your mileage may vary.
Mine have all been positive, although I've only been doing it for 6 months. So what about you, Ira?
I really never had a problem with that. I'm actually surprised because, buying stuff from Europe is like they wallop you for sure. But from Japan, no. Not bad at all.
One thing is worth bearing in mind is that there are limits on what you can consolidate. I won an auction in Japan several years ago for 27 Minolta film SLRs. And that was enough size and weight that they could not consolidate it with anything else. So that's one limit you'll run into. That ended up being a lot that cost $64 in the auction, but I paid $161 to ship it.
Ooh.
And rather than it being consolidated and therefore repackaged or combined into packaging by Buyeeing, it looks like they just forwarded the box that they had received domestically onto me. And it came with a big hole in a corner that was big enough for a camera to fall right out of. I could reach in and pull cameras straight out of it without opening the box.
Oh.
Somehow, miraculously, none of them had fallen out. So based on that experience, I also try now to avoid gigantic auctions like that.
Yeah.
And will prefer to get smaller things that can be consolidated because it will lead to safer packaging. The other thing to bear in mind with consolidated shipping is if you're getting more modern cameras, there are limits on batteries, specifically lithium ion batteries, but it can also be the lithium non-rechargeable like CR2, CR123, CRP2, and some of the automatic advanced point and shoot and SLR film cameras. That what will happen is, at least with Buyeeing, I'm not familiar with this on other sites, Buyeeing will, when they receive an item, check for batteries. and will notify you. For example, you can only ship a camera if it has a battery installed. So if you win an auction for a camera that comes with 3 batteries, they're going to have to discard 2 of them and install the other one inside the camera unless it is already. But they will do that. They will open it up and they will put 1 battery inside the camera. And then your shipping, in most cases, unless you're using UPS, most couriers will limit it to 2 lithium ion batteries. So Buyeeing will notify you of that and ask you if you want to change shipping to just UPS or if you'd like to have them discard things. But they'll also show you when you go to consolidate it. You'll have a running total at the top as you're checking off different individual items to consolidate. And as well, you'll get a warning if you try to do it that you can, if you want, if you buy a whole bunch of different items and you end up with 3 lithium ion batteries inside cameras, you might choose to consolidate them into 2 different packages and split them up so that you can get them shipped to you.
I had an experience with this recently. I bought a Ramera, the Koa radio camera. And of course, that has an old transistor radio and had a 9-volt battery, which, of course, at that age had begun leaking. And I found this out because I got an email from Japan support saying, we looked at the box and we looked at the contents, and unfortunately the battery is leaking. And our policy is we can't ship a loose battery. We are supposed to install the batteries, but we don't recommend installing this battery. So they offered me they could install the battery if I told them that it's what I wanted. They said they still felt like they probably should not ship a leaking battery internationally, so they would limit it to domestic shipment, or they could discard the battery and ship me the rest of it internationally as normal. And of course, I chose that option. I actually wrote back to them and told them how pleased I was with how they had been very descriptive and proactive in it. So they do handle those situations. It seems like that's something, the batteries, they do have to pay attention to because there are so many restrictions about them, probably both domestically and certainly internationally for shipping.
Yeah.
I'll add to that real quick too, that anything that has battery, the word battery in it is going to flag stuff. So Zen Market, for example, you can buy pretty much anything from a Japanese seller if they have a website. So everybody here is probably familiar with Kanto camera. So I wanted to buy one of Kanto's MR9 adapters. And so I popped the URL for their battery adapter into the Zen Market website, and they were able to order it for me. But then when it showed up, they were like, wait a second, this is a Mercury battery. And I'm like, no, hang on. This is the Mercury battery adapter. There's no battery. It took me a couple of rounds, but then somebody actually went and looked at the thing, like actually opened it up and looked at it. And they're like, yep, you're right. No problem. We'll ship it.
I was saying they do that with, I had that X-ray lens, and I've also had a microscope adapter, which was just part of a set. I didn't even want that part of the set. And they're like, we can't ship this because it has a microscope and there are rules. And it's not a microscope. And I had to go back and forth a few times.
It's nice that they'll at least do that, though, because, sometimes you ship things internationally and it says film camera, but then you just get the wrong customs agent who sees camera and they assume it's a digital camera and they assume that it has a lithium ion battery and they'll reject it because you didn't file the correct paperwork. It's like, no, there's not a single piece of electronics in that camera. It's a 1930s folding Zeiss icon folder, or something. So that is kind of nice to hear that they'll do that and make that effort to contact you.
And lately on Buyeeing, I've been seeing things that are on the customs paperwork listed as film camera and in brackets, no battery. So they are specifically catching on to the fact of what is being tagged by customs, and they're adapting their process.
So I want to pause here. Many of our shows, we have AJ, who is our eBay expert, and he'll sit there and he'll start eBay searching cameras we talk about. So I'm curious, AJ, have you been on any of the Japanese sites and looking things up while we're talking?
Yes, I have, and I'm lost.
What have you found? Well, ask us a question.
The searching is much different from what I'm used to with eBay and Kijiji and Marketplace. I'm starting to get a little bit of a handle on it using the categories, but to actually search with names of cameras and stuff like that, I've just been browsing through just to see what's available. And I'll be honest, a lot of the cameras we've talked about in the past episodes, I've been finding quite a few of them here. Like the last episode with the 110, there's a lot of 110s that are available for under $50.
I was sharing with the guys, we mentioned earlier, your highly collectible cameras like Leicas sometimes will go for more. There are plenty of sellers that list prices at aspirational levels that'll never sell. And then there's also a lot of bottom feeders, like AJ, sort by lowest to highest. You'll see a lot of like 1 yen cameras, but they're all things you probably don't want. On occasion, though, you will see a camera that really isn't very collectible. Nobody's really looking for it, but it's still interesting enough. And one such camera I recently purchased was called the Ricoh. I already forgot what it was called. It was a solar powered 35 millimeter SLR, XRS, I think it was. The Ricoh XRS came out in the early 80s. It's got 2 solar cells on the side of the prism, completely gimmicky. It doesn't operate the shutter. It's still a mechanical camera, and the solar cells just operate the meter. For all I know, it doesn't even work, but I'm certain there's probably nobody on the planet searching for one of these right now. And I got it for super cheap, way cheaper than if that thing ever had showed up on eBay. Not that it probably ever has. So sometimes you'll find stuff like that nobody's really looking for, and you could pick things up for a steal. And because it's in Japan, not always, but you're less common to find items. Let's say you're a big time Minolta collector and you want to get the Maxim 7, the film SLR that a lot of people like, but in Japan they called it the Alpha 7. Here we called it the Dynex 7, the Maxim 7. In Japan it was called the Alpha 7. It's the same camera, right? The Minolta XD11 was called the XD7 there. The Minolta, what was their pro camera? The XM, the XK. In Japan it's called the X1. It's the same camera, but you're much more likely to find the X1 in Japan, if that's the kind of thing you like. If you want a Nikkor mat instead of a Nikkor mat, you're probably going to find those much easier too. So those kind of distinctions, sometimes it is worth finding, and you'll probably get it a lot cheaper than if that same camera were to show up here in the United States. But it's just, again, it's like we keep saying, you got to know what you're looking for. You have to understand the market and what these things realistically sell for to be able to find stuff. So yeah, I mean, AJ, just keep looking, and you know how auctions work, right? Just because it's $10 right now doesn't mean that's what it's going to sell for. So if you're thinking of maybe wanting to give this a try, but it's apprehensive or confusing, just find a bunch of things, watch it, and just let it end. Like, don't actually bid, and just kind of get a feel for like what it sold for, and then factor in, you're probably going to pay about, like I said, about $7 or $8 domestic shipping when you're all said and done, depending on how many you buy at once. If you only buy one camera online and ship it to yourself, you're going to pay $40+ on shipping for that one item. Stephen, in Canada, are there customs tariffs or whatever that you guys pay?
There are no tariffs, but we do have provincial and federal sales tax, which is if I walked into a store and bought something locally, I would have to pay. And when an item comes in, most often it's going to get tagged and I'll have to pay sales taxes on what the declared value is. But sometimes it does sneak by with nothing assessed on it at all.
Is there a ballpark percentage that would be?
I mean, depending on province, you're looking at anywhere from 11 to 13%.
Okay. And that's honestly in the ballpark of what the tariffs are for US people. So it's a different label, but it's another fee that you have to consider in there too. So for AJ, you're in Canada. So whatever your local provincial taxes are, you have to factor that in there. You have to factor in the additional buy fees. Go ahead.
But quick question though, like I've ordered from eBay from sellers in Japan. Is there much of a difference?
You will find sellers in Japan who are listing something just on eBay or just on Yahoo Auctions, or sometimes they'll list it on both. But one thing you also have to be careful of is there are sellers on eBay listing things from Japan that they don't have in their possession, that they are seeing listings on Yahoo Auctions Japan. They are stealing the descriptions or sometimes rewriting them. They are stealing all of the photos and they are listing that item for sale themselves. And they are hoping that if you buy it on eBay, that it will still be available on Yahoo. They can go and buy it, get it shipped to themselves, then they can ship it on to you. And sometimes what you'll find is that it will have sold out in Japan before they get a chance to ship it to you. And so your eBay transaction will be canceled and refunded. But some cases, those markups are astonishingly high. I've had things where I've got an email from Buyeeing saying a saved search item has popped up and it will be available for $300 Canadian. And then the next day, I will get 4 different sellers on eBay listing it on eBay, and they'll be charging $700 for it, $1,200 for it. And it's just a wild free for all. But also the reverse happens. I've seen items listed on Yahoo Auctions Japan that say overseas on them, and they are eBay items available in North America or the US specifically that someone in Japan is selling, and it's triple or 6 times or 9 times the price that it is on eBay. So now whenever I do something, I have saved searches on eBay and Buyeeing, and I'm always looking if it's for sale on one site, is it for sale on another? Even within Japan, it might be on Yahoo and Mercari, and it might be a different price. And one might have shipping paid by the seller, and one might be shipping paid by the winner. It's a wild free for all. So there's so many scammers out there on both sides of the ocean that you have to be very careful what you're doing.
And I would say too, even when they're completely honest, they're doing everything on the up and up. If you have a legitimate Japanese seller that's selling in Japan, and that same exact Japanese seller also sells on eBay, completely honestly, the eBay price will be 20 to 30% higher. The one thing that is nice though, in my experience through eBay buying from Japanese sellers, when the seller ships to you domestically, it shows up within 3 to 4 days. It comes very, very fast. It's super quick. With Buyeeing, again, remember, it has to go from the seller in Japan, domestic shipping, to Buyeeing's warehouse. They have to have employees to go get the mail, open up your package, figure out who it's to, match it to your account, put it in your quote unquote mailbox until you're ready to actually tell them to ship it to you, because you get 30 days by default. You can buy anything you want and they will hold it for free, no additional charge for 30 days as you continue to buy things. And then you have to tell them, okay, I'm done, send it to me now. The consolidation, even though it's a huge benefit, you don't have to do it. You could, in theory, have everything sent to you one at a time. But regardless of what you do, they then have to ship it to you. And, being in the United States, and I assume it's the same for you, Stephen, it goes over the Pacific Ocean. So for us, most everything lands in Los Angeles. It has to go through our customs before it gets handed off to a courier, which for me has always been FedEx. Like, I've never been even given a choice in the matter and who handles my local delivery. It's always been FedEx. And I like to have stuff shipped to a PO box because I don't like having packages just sitting on my front porch. I live in a decent neighborhood. We don't have a lot of porch pirates. I just don't like the idea of that stuff sitting out there. And FedEx normally can ship to a PO box if you give them the actual street address of your post office. But on occasion, sometimes they do throw a fit. So like that whole, from the moment I've bought something to the moment it's in my hands, can sometimes be over a month if I'm trying to consolidate a bunch of stuff too. But again, that privilege of getting it direct from the Japanese seller through eBay may be faster, may be less painful. You do get the better eBay buyer protections, but you're almost certainly paying a lot more for it though.
One thing I want to quickly jump back to is, Mike, you mentioned that cameras have different names, like a Maxim 7 or a Dynax 7 in Europe will be an Alpha 7 in Japan. Another thing is that usually Greek letters like that on Japanese auction sites, they use the actual Greek letter. So even modern Sony cameras, we call them like an A6000. They will actually use the Greek alpha letter. And the same thing with Olympus cameras, the stylus cameras in North America that in Europe and Japan are the Mu or Mu cameras. We use a U on eBay a lot to just make it easy. But because they're translating characters anyway, the Japanese sellers will use the actual Greek letter for their listings. So you might have to search for things like that in order to find the listings you want.
Well, in search too, things they're listed generally in Japanese. They may be mixed Japanese and English, but there are a lot of them that are pure Japanese. And the search engine has to translate. I'll notice like on Buyeeing that if you're typing in the search bar on Buyeeing, it will offer you, if you pause as you type, it will offer it what looks like to you the same text, maybe slightly recast below your search bar. And that's actually the translated, it's a proxy for the translated search that it's going to do. And you will get a different results from if you hit search, if you hit like the magnifying glass in the right side of the search bar versus clicking on that pop-up text, because one of those is translated. And again, the user interface of your browser is kind of hiding that from you. But, if you're looking for black, and it's not going to look for the word black, it's going to look for, I forget Japanese for black. So if you're looking for a black painted camera, a very common thing, you do have to learn, yes, that they're not listed in the same way as you would find them. Like you say, the model's different, the way that it's written is different. And of course, it's in Japanese quite often.
What does it mean when you see a camera that has spiders?
It's usually
Stuff
fungus.
inside the lens.
Fungus.
Yeah, usually
Yeah.
fungus.
Oh, okay.
Or chili. You say
Chili.
no chili.
Cheaty.
Yeah.
It's funny seeing some of the same mistranslations. You'll see the same word over and over again, like no spiders. Well, I would hope not.
Or little spiders. Sometimes they'll say little spiders.
If you see chilly or cheery, that's dust. And if you see spiders, that's cloudy, as in hazy.
Yeah.
If you live in Australia like I do, everything has spiders.
The other one is mult deterioration. If you see that, that means the foam light seals are going in the camera.
Malt. Yeah. I've seen that a lot.
The Canon guy's got a Canon specific tip for you. The late Barnack rangefinders, the 2D2 and the 2S2 and the 4SB2 and all of that. In Japan, they are typically listed as a 2S modified or a 2S Kai, Kai, versus a 2S2, because that's what they're called. And that's how they refer to it as, I guess, modified or Kai is their term for that. So you'll see that quite often. So if you're wondering what a 2S Kai is, there you go.
I just wanted to do a quick hijacking to go transcontinental and ask if anybody has any experience using the European auction site Catawiki. I assume that Ira has.
Plenty of experience.
Have you found that it's become increasingly difficult to use in the last year and a half?
No different. It just takes a long time to get anything from Europe for whatever reason.
I'm finding Japanese sellers on it lately too. A lot of items that I'm searching for are being sold by somebody in Japan.
I have bought so much Voigtlander gear off of Catawiki. There was a time during the pandemic when I could buy a lot of like 15 different versions of the Voigtlander Vito in one lot for $50. And it would be like $75 shipping. But anymore, I'm finding that more and more places, especially in the last year and a half, have decided that they will not ship to the US.
Yes, that's common.
More and more, it's just like I used to buy a lot through Catawiki, like a lot. I've stopped because of, well, two things. Shipping from Europe has become crazy expensive. And the way that Catawiki is worked, where they're kind of like curated collections. So it's not as easy to consolidate if you are buying across collections. But mostly, these European sellers don't want to ship to the US anymore. And if you go to make a bid, it'll geo-lock you out or geo-fence you off from certain auctions. And it's become a real, kind of a real headache.
What I had to do, I wanted to bid on a camera that the seller just would not ship to the United States. Unfortunately, through Facebook, you make a lot of buddies overseas. You send the money to the people overseas, they get the money, then they buy the camera for you, then they ship it. You got to pay double shipping. That's the only downside to it. But you can get it somehow.
Not unlike the proxy services, right? You're paying for domestic shipping and you may be paying international shipping in the EU and then again, international shipping to get it to you.
Yeah, but it's better than no shipping.
I always found that through Catawiki that I was generally getting higher quality cameras than I was getting in the US through like eBay. Because a lot of these, they've been verified. They're going through shops that set up Catawiki stores or collectors who are selling collections. I never got burned in buying through Catawiki. It's another interesting site.
The curated part of it is what does that.
Yeah, their curation is a bit questionable, but they do have a higher quality product. I'd say in general, they'd probably reject a lot of the junk, the real junk, not the stuff that's labeled junk. My specialty is buying things that people list as the wrong thing and they don't know what they're selling. And my legendary one is getting that Canon 1950 that was listed as both a 2B and an S2 and not listed as a 1950 for well under the going price of a 1950 off of Catawiki.
Everyone has one of those stories. My favorite is I bought a Leica 3D that was listed as a 3C. There were exactly 427 3Ds made. There were 80 gazillion 3Cs. And the crazy part of it was sold by a camera store.
They didn't even know what it was that they had.
Nope.
That's funny.
Catawiki's 40 years of expertise, curators are probably no more expert than anybody else.
There is one camera that I really want, and it's becoming my white whale. It's not even anything all that special. I just really want one. And the prices on them through Buyeeing and the Japanese auctions are inexplicably high. And I feel like they're going higher because I want one. And then I found a local shop like 20 minutes from my house that had one for sale. And I was in there and I asked the guy, like, hey, let me see that camera on the shelf. They didn't even know what it was. The guy's like, I don't even know where this came from. I'm like, well, do you want to sell it? They're like, well, we need to come up with a price. And I'm like, all right, I mean, I'll give you $100 for it. And he's like, well, I'll get back to you. They sent me a quote of $800 for it. And I'm like, Jesus, what's going on?
Which camera?
It's the Arco 35. It's a Japanese folder.
There was one on Buyeeing right now.
Oh, they're there, but they're $1 million.
Yeah, they're too high.
No, they're not that much.
No, I want the one with the TLR viewfinder on top.
You know what happened, Mike? They were trying to establish a price. So they went on eBay and looked it up, and they found Boris's.
Yeah. Yeah. When Boris sends the benchmark, we're all screwed. So, okay, we've talked at length about the Japanese auctions. I feel like we've covered it fairly well. You know, Katawiki does a lot of the European stuff. We all know about eBay and Kijiji. Does anybody know of a marketplace for buying Chinese cameras? Like, you keep hearing about all these Chinese buyers, you know, buying things and bringing things back to China. But is there any way to get stuff out of China? Does anybody know?
There is, actually. James Warner from Snappiness just was posting about this on his Discord. I'll look it up real quick. But yeah, he just started using a similar service in China, and he was kind of talking about some of the struggles that he had with it. But overall, he was really happy with it.
Because Norris, I wish he was here because he could have comment. He actually works for a Chinese company and he goes back and forth there a couple of times a year. So he has leads where he can get stuff through Chinese marketplaces and he just brings the stuff back with him the next time he comes home. But I don't know of any way to actually find those kinds of things for international shipping because that's kind of a growing subset of interest for me is some of the like the Pearl Rivers and the, you know, the red flags and stuff like that. It can get pricey, though.
Good luck with the red flag.
Yeah, I know, but I could wish.
Here we go. He said Superbuy is what he's using.
Superbuy.
I've never tried it, never even gone to the website, but it's apparently superbuy.com.
Okay. So there's a lot of people still that haven't spoken. Are any of you, have we leaned you in any direction towards trying this or like, hell no, this is way too confusing. I'm happy with how things are. Have we moved the needle for anybody here?
I'm on Buyeeing right now. No offense to you guys, but I'm listening. But, you know.
Yeah. So that's Ron G. He's got a big smile on his face. Which...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've decided that if it's more than $100, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the hard part is there's a lot of math, you know, like you have to do the conversion. You have to factor in all those fees. And it's not always easy at first.
I was looking on Buyeeing last week. And is everybody familiar with Sugiyama?
The book?
That's the Japanese camera collector book.
Yeah.
They have a series of 1 to 5 stars, depending on rarity, with 1 being the least rare and the 5 being the most rare. They had a 4-star camera. It was being sold by Mayumi, and she knows what it's worth, and I know what it's worth. 11 people bid on it, but they bid like nothing on it. So I got this 4-star camera for like $40. I couldn't believe it.
See, my experience is when that happens, it always gets canceled. Every single time I have ever thought...
It's from Mayumi. It's not going to be canceled.
Maybe I need to know more about this Mayumi.
You don't know her? If you go to camerashop.jp, that's her store.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know.
And she was actually here in my house to look at my collection. I've met her in person.
How many people have been invited to the sanctity of the Von Cabbage collection?
Not many.
Not many? See, I'm an exclusive group. I'm really happy about that. I can see that wallpaper that's behind you and like I can vividly remember being there.
There's one topic we do need to definitely bring up, Mike.
Yes. What is it?
The protections that are available for buyers and the inspections and in the insurance and that sort of thing on Buyeeing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
So I don't know from Japan at all. I am just been buying on Buyeeing for 5.5 years. But the way they work it is that there is a service fee, no matter what you buy, of 500 yen, which is, I guess, about $5 Canadian, $3 US. And then you have a choice of plans. You can use the light plan, which is 0 additional yen, or you can choose for just inspection or just insurance on the delivery, which are 300 or 500 yen, but those are pointless. What you would want to do is get the standard plan, which is 500 yen, because that is both inspection and insurance. So for a cheap item, I'll just go for the light plan. If I get an item and it's damaged or it's not what I wanted it to be, it was just a couple of dollars, it doesn't matter. But for the more expensive items, I will choose the standard plan, pay the extra 500 yen. So you're paying 500 yen service fee plus 500 yen for inspection and insurance on the delivery. And that way, they are supposed to inspect the item when they receive it from the Japanese seller. And then if anything is not what it's supposed to be, issue a refund, or if anything gets lost or damaged when it gets to you, even if it was okay when it arrived in Japan, the insurance can kick in that case. Now, this is hit or miss. There have been a lot of discussions, and I think, Greg, you've been encountering some of this, that there are times where they have received the wrong item from a Japanese seller. They have supposedly inspected it, not noticed it, shipped it to the winner, and don't really want to do anything about it. And it sort of becomes a fight to get your money back. So there's also, you have the option of doing a photo request, that once the item has been received in the Buyeeing warehouse, you can pay 300 yen to have them take a photograph of it. And that won't always automatically ensure you're getting what you paid for, but it can help if there are problems later. So on really big ticket items, I would recommend the standard plan for inspection and insurance. And then once it arrives in the warehouse, go into the list of your packages and request a photo of it. And then when you receive the item locally, if there are any issues with it, you've got a limited amount of time where you can claim things, but they also have an incredibly complex procedure of what they expect you to do to prove there was damage. They're going to want photos of the outer shipping box and all the labels that were on that. They're going to want photos of the way the inner box was packaged, any labels on the inner box. They're going to want proof of how it was packaged in case it got damaged in shipping. So what I will do is whenever I receive a package, I will set up my cell phone and I'll record a video of the box. I'll record it from every single angle, flipping it around, showing that it hasn't been opened or tampered with. And then I'll open it. I'll show it at every stage of the removal of individual boxes within the main shipping box, the opening of those boxes, flipping the item around at all angles, showing it all off. They have never once wanted that video from me, but they have often wanted photographs, and I've been able to take screenshots from those videos. I would also highly recommend that you keep all of the packaging, especially for a few days. Make sure there's nothing wrong with a camera that you didn't notice at first, or something missing that you may have missed, that you may message them about a claim and they'll start processing it. And then after a day or two, they'll say, oh, by the way, we want a photo of the customs label or the sticker that was on the box. So make sure you keep all that stuff around until everything is settled. And I think in a lot of cases, they're doing that because they know people won't keep that around, and it's an easy way for them to get out of paying the insurance. But if you keep everything around, you've got a good video or photos of everything along the way, and you provide them the proof that they're asking for, I have had very excellent results with the insurance, that if something has been damaged or shipping, or in one case, purchased something that was a lens with a hood and caps and filters and all the various accessories, and one of those accessories was missing, that they have given me either partial or complete refunds on the items that I've purchased after I spent a week jumping through all the hoops of providing evidence for them.
Yeah, so I would say that's pretty accurate. Definitely, I have taken Stephen's advice on, and I do this with just about anything that is of a significant value now. I have practically a webcasting setup. I have a camera, downward looking camera over my desk, and I just record a video of the unboxing. I joke about I need to start an unboxing channel, but it's very useful to have that evidence because, yeah, in my experience, so I had an experience where I bought a lot. I bought 6 cameras and a meter in a lot, but it was a Yahoo JDirect flea market purchase. I consolidated that into a package of more stuff. What I ultimately received was a package of, and it was all scattered in the boxes. Like I said, they weren't together, but I had, instead of 6 cameras I was expecting, I got 8 cameras I wasn't expecting, along with a bunch of other stuff. And these were, I put some of them straight into Ziploc bags because parts were falling off of them. And I said, what is this? What, couldn't figure it out for a little bit. And I was heading out of town the next day and kind of took some photos of it and wrote a message to Buyeeing and then left town. Yeah, they wanted photos I didn't possibly anticipate. And of course, I had packaged all the packaging material up and thrown it in the trash can. And so I was messaging people to say, can you pull this out of the trash can and take pictures of it for me? And they ultimately refused to make progress until I could take all of the items that I had received in mistake, even though I had sent them a photo of them. They wanted them on a scale. They wanted to know how much it weighed before they would believe me. And so I had to get home and put them all together and put them on a scale 2 weeks later because it was a long trip. And ultimately, back and forth a million messages with them. They finally did. And I had paid the fee, the insurance fee. They finally did agree that they had shipped me the wrong thing, and they refunded the purchase price and the fees, but they did not refund the shipping. So this was 5.2 kilograms, I could tell you, because they made me weigh it, of equipment I didn't want. And international shipping of that, I did the FedEx option, was 60 something bucks, and more than half the shipping price of that whole consolidated box. I said, well, what about that? And if it was your mistake, why didn't I get that back? They ultimately, back and forth many times, refused. I even went to PayPal, and PayPal said the buyer pays return shipping, because that was the other thing. I said, do you want this back? I'll ship it back to you. I don't want these cameras. No, we don't want them back. And then they went to PayPal and they said, well, we want them back. And I said, oh, that's great. Send me a shipping label. And they said, oh, no, you have to ship it back to Japan. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm trying to get the cost of shipping back. So why would I ship it to Japan to do that? And ultimately, PayPal closed the case in their favor, because they said, well, yeah, since you decided not to ship it, that's it. You can go to your credit card company, which good luck figuring all those charges out, because it's a million different charges, right? So I gave up at that point. It definitely is. You're taking a risk that, again, eBay would have sent you a refund and a box of chocolates on Paul's dime, right, by this point. So, it's a very different situation.
It is risky, and that's something that I think anybody needs to acknowledge. And for the most part, I've had good luck. Stephen, you've had 40-some shipments with never an experience like that. Greg, it sucks. I'd be just as frustrated as you likely are too. It's kind of like sometimes you got to take your licks and just move on. It happens.
Yeah, it certainly didn't stop me buying from Japan. It just stopped me buying through Buyeeing.
Yeah.
Mike, can I tell my Mercari story real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Paul's got a good one.
Well, I ran across this guy on Facebook, and he had some really SL66 cameras and lenses and a pretty nice and lot of stuff. So we agreed on a price. And he said, well, can we do it through Mercari, because I don't have PayPal and Mercari will pay me? And I said, sure. Well, I'd never used Mercari, even though for some reason I had an account with them. I've never bought anything or sold anything there. So I go to his listing, which he lists all the stuff perfectly well, except he says they're all like new and the pictures are good. So I bought it, and it was $2,000. They charge a 3.6% insurance fee plus tax plus $70 shipping. Well, first problem was that he miscalculated the shipping. He said it was 19 pounds. It actually was 50 pounds. So instead of one box that he charges me for, he's got to ship two. One box he ships by priority mail. The second box he ships by USPS Ground Advantage, and he's in Alaska. So that's 17 days to get from Alaska to Ohio. In the meantime, the priority mail package only takes 4 days. Mercari will automatically pay the seller after 3 days delivery time. So they're going to pay him even though I haven't received the vast majority of the items that I paid for. The other problem was that the two cameras that I got, the Rolly SL66s, were both not only broken, they were engraved with the original owner's name on them. They were not like new at all. So I filed a return with Mercari. And really all I wanted the return to do was put a hold on the whole process until I got the rest of the stuff that was in transit. So I filed a return on them. They closed my account, banned me from Mercari, paid the seller, and said, that's it. And then the seller and I have had great conversations. He had nothing. I mean, he sells trading cards. He didn't know about cameras. So he had no idea what to look for. So I've gone to my credit card vendor, which happens to be Capital One, and filed a dispute with them. So now Capital One files a dispute with Mercari over this. And I'm 90% sure what's going to happen is either two things will happen. Either Mercari will send me a return authorization and I can ship everything back, or Capital One is going to say, here's your credit, keep the stuff. The odds are that's what's going to actually happen. They insure themselves against these problems. And I told the kid, if they tell me to keep this and Mercari dings you back on it, I'll either pay you for it or I'll ship it back to you. I'm not going to cheat him. But it's just been the most bizarre transaction I've ever had anything to do with. I mean, I've bought and sold thousands and thousands of transactions, and I've never had anything this strange happen. But anyway, I'm banned from Mercari. So,
But I mean, even though your gut tells you the guy's not trying to rip you off, you're not trying to rip him off. You have an honest seller and an honest buyer. But don't you think, though, that it's a red flag when someone's like, I can't pay you through the usual means? Like, to me, that would be an instant no.
Yeah, that was as you told the story. That was exactly what I thought.
well, you're right. When he said he didn't have PayPal, that is an absolute red flag.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I can't stand PayPal myself, but yeah, I have an account.
Yeah,
Or Zelle.
yeah, or Zelle. Well, see, now is Venmo and Zelle, they have no buyer protection. That's the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your only buyer protection would be Mercari. As far as I was concerned, I was completely protected by using that method. But as it turns out, they aren't.
That's crazy.
And then what really pissed me off was they charged me a 3.6%, $74.50 fee for buyer protection.
And then they just ditched you as soon as you had a claim.
And then they ignore it. Yeah, they ignore it.
The reason Paul's bringing this up, we're proud to announce the Camerosity escrow service that we will now offer for any purchases $2,000 or higher. Give us your money. We'll hold on to it. And we'll pay me and Paul.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, look at us. Are we going to cheat you?
We're going to cheat you?
Inspect the camera, extensively inspect the camera.
Yeah.
Maybe a year
Yeah.
or so. Yeah.
I'll write a review of it, then I'll send it to you.
Years later.
It's like a good deal.
I always told people in the store that no matter how long it takes or how much it costs you, we'll get you what you need.
All right.
And whatever you buy will come via Australia for some proper testing.
There you go.
With spiders.
Paul's story did remind me of the one angle of my Buyeeing sad story, that the one that caused me to not deal with them. And that was, I said, I'm just going to go to PayPal if you don't want to refund my money. And they said, well, if you go to PayPal, that could affect your Buyeeing account. Oh, wait a minute. Did you just threaten me? I was like, are you threatening to close my account?
Oh, of course they were threatening you. And Mercari told me basically the same thing. We will limit your account. I said, does that mean I can't buy anything from you? And I said, that's fine. I hadn't bought anything from you before, and I'm not going to buy anything from you again. So that's sort of an empty threat.
I think that was my response to Buyeeing. I said, just take a look at my wish list and how there are 0 items in it right now. I said, and look at my past purchases. You just literally hit a wall, right? As soon as this happened. So not that they care. They have a bazillion customers. Clearly, they are the largest and they function like that. They're not the competitor. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the proxy space. And they're very good and they're very useful. So I don't want to sit here and just trash them. I did quite a lot of business with them. And I know Stephen is a big fan of them. But I think that's a function of scale. You probably get good and bad support people anywhere. But yeah, I thought that was the most astonishing part of my experience was they basically threatened to close my account if I went to PayPal. And I was like, all right, well.
Unfortunately, that's not an uncommon response from bigger companies. I mean, years and years ago, I had a problem with Amazon where my account was somehow hacked. I still, to this day, don't know how it happened. Somebody purchased a bunch of gift cards and then, transferred them to another account, blah, blah, blah. Amazon's response was, it must be your account, and they closed it. So, I mean...
Well, Bob Rodoloni used to sell a lot of his stuff on eBay, and he got banned from it. And he, to this day, doesn't know why. Like, he asked them, like, why did you kick me off? And they just wouldn't tell him. They said due to illegal activities or something. And they just made the decision without really giving him a good reason why. And he was just so upset about it. He just never created a new account. So he doesn't sell on eBay anymore either.
It doesn't solve your problem, Greg, but at least your experience has led me to request photos of items that are of a certain value, and hopefully, encouraging other people to do the same who are listening to this podcast, that we can avoid that problem and learn from the misfortune that you had and avoid it in the future.
I hate being a lesson to everybody else, but I hope that helps. And I certainly, like I said, I have learned from you how better to protect myself with this. So I think that's the best that we can hope for, right?
I feel like when this episode's edited together, overall, we've probably done more dissuasion of Japanese auctions, possibly. But, I still think that it's worthwhile to have had this discussion to just get more information out there, because I didn't have this knowledge before I started. I just kind of jumped in. But I think it's good to know the lesson to be learned here. It's not all bad. There are good deals. You do have to do your research. You have to understand what you're getting into. You have to play the game. And if you're willing to do it and put in the time, a quick diversion, a camera that I've been looking for a long time that Vlad Kern has been helping me try to find. He's like, well, you're not going to find it for the price that you want to pay. And I'm like, I'll just wait 5 years if that's what it takes. Like, I'm not in any hurry. And, I've been collecting for over 12 years. Some of you guys way longer than that. And I look around at my collection and sometimes I just amaze myself at what I've been able to find over all the years. And, you can find things. You just have to be patient. You have to put in the time. You have to know what you're doing. You're not going to just one day wake up and be an instant camera collector on the cheap. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd pay out through the nose to do it. But assuming you don't have gold Scrooge McDuck pockets, of money, swimming pools of gold coins. If you want to build a collection, you want to get good cameras, you have to understand how the process works. And this is just another tool. It's another option. It can be a lot of fun. It can be very frustrating. But I think the more knowledge you have, the better your chances are of getting something cool from it.
I definitely have been competing against Uncle Scrooge in my auctions lately. I've been getting smoked. I did want to mention, you talked about the 30-day warehouse. So Buyeeing default warehouse storage process is 30 days for the oldest item. And then I believe you can pay to extend it up to 60 days. They have a fee for that. From Japan's default is 60 days, no additional fee. And they do it's just a 500 yen fee. Everything that they do is the 500 yen fee. My one experience where they needed to intervene in an item, they did so for that one fee. The other thing is they do offer so I'm looking, they have UPS, DHL, FedEx, ECMS, and then they have others that are not always available. So they have a bunch of different services available. And then, as I mentioned, this is the thing I want to try. So maybe if we have a Redux Buying from Japan episode 100 episodes from now, I can tell you how it went, is they have the option now to do shipping without the prepaid duties. And I definitely want to give that a try. So I do like the flexibility that the different services, I would say definitely check out the different services.
Yeah.
If we haven't dissuaded you from doing it at all.
Whether you've gotten it through Japanese auctions, is there any new gas or any pickups anybody here has had that they wanted to share, or shot any interesting film stocks lately that we want to talk about?
Well, I got my hands a couple of weeks ago on a Kiev 4A.
Nice.
Did it work?
Yeah, it's working. It needs a bit of help to advance the film. I don't know if that's because I just need to lubricate the the take-up reel and the rewind, but I'm almost finished this roll of film to be developed, so I'll have some photos to post on the Discord very soon.
That's got the 1.8 lens on it too, right? Most of them have the Jupiter 8.
It's got the Helios.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just bought a non-working one from Vlad for the sole purposes of finding out just how hard they are to work on, since apparently the pre-war, the 4A or all the Kiev 2 through the 4, I think, are based on the pre-war Contax design, if I'm correct about that.
Yeah.
And there are no people left in North America, I understand, at least publicly, that work on them. And so I was like, well, how hard can it be? So I wanted to have a look. We'll see if I have a humiliating lesson there, but it was not a very expensive purchase. So
you'll have to share with us, AJ, when you get the results from that one.
At the same time, I'm also testing out my Aries that I got last year, the Aries 35, what was that, 35.5.
That's a beautiful camera.
Well, I just spent $5 at the broken camera bin and got a working Minolta 500 SI, which is not a collectible thing at all, but I had some fun with it. So
it's a great shooter. All those cameras from that era are wonderful shooters. Will, did you have something?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually had this sort of banner week, not of extravagant things, but on the last podcast for the 110, while we were on the podcast, I did an eBay for the Canon 110 ED20.
There you go.
Oh,
nice.
Which, was a really low price and it was untested, kind of thing. It's perfect. I mean, the condition's fantastic. I need to get a battery for it, test it out. And then while I was roaming eBay, I decided to look for some of the Agfa Rapid cartridges, but instead got this Agfa Carat 36.
Ooh, beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
Again, it was really inexpensive, but it's gorgeous and it seems to work perfect.
Those are nice.
Never seen one. Yeah. It's really a nice feel to it.
So that's the Agfa, not the Ansco version?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got the Ansco version of it.
Yeah, it's the Agfa version.
And the focus helix moves smoothly?
It does, which I was
Oh, wow.
Somebody had to have repaired that. That's been serviced before.
Well, it's interesting too, because I looked it up after I purchased it, then I looked it up on YouTube or something. And wouldn't you know, Chris Sherlock has an entire series of taking it apart and rebuilding it, which was really cool.
It's surprisingly not that hard. I've actually tore those things down and gotten the helix out and been able to clean it. For a retina style, we'll call those 35 millimeter folding type cameras. They're not that hard to take apart. Definitely watch Chris Sherlock's videos. I even have some instructions on my site that tell you a couple of pitfalls to avoid. But I want to ask you, Will, that rangefinder, and I've talked about this before on the show, has my favorite combined rangefinder viewfinder. And I've said on the show why I like it so much, but what were your thoughts about it?
I messed with it a little bit. I mean, I haven't shot it yet. And I found it was really interesting, the horizontal focusing aspect of it.
But the entire viewfinder is the rangefinder, the entire thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really like it.
For people who are visually impaired, I can see you wear glasses.
Yes.
It really helps. I mean, for the era in which that camera was made, if you're not that experienced with rangefinders, they're usually extremely tiny. And that one is spectacular to use.
I think I need to clean it. But yeah, I'm really happy about that. And then on the 110, I rarely get gifted cameras, but this guy happened to gift me not only a original Diana in the box, unused, which is kind of one of my favorites, but this really amazing 110 Lavec Spy XR8.
Oh, those are cool.
What's fascinating is the fact that it came with a keychain and the mini Spy coin holder. I thought it was a roll of film, and I'm like, cool, a free roll of film. It pops it open. And I looked it up real quick, and it's interesting. The company, I think, that made it is the one that did the notorious time cameras that they would give away for free with the lead weight in the bottom.
The Scamera.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my exciting week of, fun.
I want to call in Jeremy Scott. Jeremy, I know you ran into another Camerosity listener, didn't you?
Yeah, I ended up ran into Norris on Whatnot. We were crazy auction that was going on with this couple that had bought a storage unit that had over 300 cameras in it. It was crazy. And the fun part was they had no idea about cameras.
Oh, no.
Well over 300 cameras, and they were going through them one at a time. We had to tell the guy every once in a while in the chat saying, stop what you're doing, because he was trying to show things and trying to take apart a Hasselblad 1000F. And it's it was exciting.
He was breaking it mid-auction?
Not quite, but getting pretty close. And we were just stop, please stop.
Oh, my goodness. Did you pick up anything then or no?
I picked up a few things here and there. Sorry about the background noise here. Part of the issue was all of this stuff was in a storage unit in Florida that was not temperature controlled. So it was buyer beware. But I think I picked up a few things that might be worth it. Now clean what needs to be cleaned.
Okay, cool. Brian Hewitt, do you have anything recently you want to share?
I do. I've got a couple of things. The first one is something that I think has been talked about. This is the Mercury Works 135 pano back. So it's originally a Mamiya 220 back that you buy parts and you modify it, and it gives you a panorama frame that's the same aspect ratio as 6x17, but uses 35 millimeter film.
Is that the X-pan ratio?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. That's very neat.
Yeah. So I've been using it a lot on my Graflexes. Really fun to be able to shoot that kind of panorama aspect ratio on film stocks that come as 35 millimeter only.
How many exposures do you get?
It seems to vary. It's got this little thing here, a little sticker that you put on that has numbers. And the numbers are 1 to 14, but that has nothing to do with how many exposures you get. It seems that some rolls are rolled with a little bit less film than others. And if I advance fully, like I would if I was shooting a 6x7 frame, that puts a very wide, almost 2 inches between exposures. And so it's about figuring out how much I need to advance it without advancing it too far. And also some rolls just have more film on them than others. So I get on a 36 exposure at least 10 shots, but usually more, sometimes as much as 14 or 15.
So the frame is 24 millimeters high and probably, what would you say, 76 millimeters? It can't be 3 inches because the back can't handle that.
Yeah, I believe it's 58 millimeters.
That's pretty close to X-pan.
So 24 by 58.
Yeah, I've shot a bunch of rolls through it and it's been quite reliable.
So is that a genuine Mamiya back that somebody modified, or is that all new construction?
It's a genuine Mamiya back that I bought, and then I bought the parts from Mercury Works and did the mod.
Okay, very neat. That's a lot cheaper, Paul, than the Chinese guy modifying your Hasselblad backs, right?
Yeah, the Hasselblad, he just got 2 of them that I shipped. I should have them back within, hopefully, the next month or so.
Okay.
Since we're talking about previous purchases, if you remember in the last episode, and I'm probably guilty of looking at Buyeeing while we were talking today, but I was looking at the 110 that I liked when I first saw it, the Aquamatic Macro, 5008 Macro. It arrived about 10 days ago, and like I said, it's fully serviced and fully working. I'm going to stick some film in it soon and use that dial, which looks fantastic.
That red dot is so cool.
Mm.
The entire series of those cameras use that red dot.
The analog focus scale, yeah,
that's very cool.
I hadn't planned to do it, but I had released my review for the Agfa Electronic S, which also has the red dot. And that's the one, Paul, you've handled them before, where the rewind and the film advance at the same lever.
Yes, same lever.
It definitely poses problems for me if those things aren't working perfectly. So it's an unnecessary risk, but it is neat.
I fell victim to the Ekman reviews and ended up with a King Regula. So
okay.
Of all the cameras.
Ooh, the king of cameras.
That's right. So I haven't shot that yet, but I've been playing with that. I've also been shopping Paul Mart and picked up a Rolly 35 from Paul recently. So
how many dents does it have?
I think this is a 2. I think it's rated as a 2. He didn't have that in his listing, but yeah.
I don't remember who I got that from, but it was somebody he was a friend of mine, and that one had the Kanto battery adapter in it.
Yes.
I was trying to remember who that was. Yeah. No, that one was in nice shape.
I'd never played with one before, and I'm absolutely in love with it. I haven't shot it yet, but I've been busy traveling, but need to carry this around with me for a little bit. So
that came from Brandon Monroe.
Is that the Tessar one or the Sonar one?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I think it's Tessar.
That's made in Germany.
Yes, correct.
So if it's just 35, then it's a Tessar or a 35T. Okay.
Yep.
I'm still looking for a Sonar one. Well, I picked up, following on the 110 and the Sub-Mini episode, I've been collecting, especially a lot of 16 millimeter, not just the 110s, but the 16 millimeters are a little bit more accessible as far as reloading. I got a Universal Minute 16 that came in today, which is the other American 16 millimeter, because you see the Whittaker ones all the time, right? This Whittaker Micro 16, I think, the famous cigarette pack one with the plunger.
Did you get the flash gun for that?
For the Minute 16? I do not. I am interested.
Yeah, there's a flash gun that they made for it. It's 4 times the size of the camera.
Yeah. But no, this one works. And it has a film cartridge. That was the main thing when I was shopping for one that actually has the cartridge.
My really only worthwhile pickup that's worth mentioning is a camera that's really quite common. It's the first Konica 1.
Those are nice.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Their original 35 millimeter rangefinder. I had been wanting one of the earlier ones, though, the Made in Occupied Japan ones, because only these, it has embossed in the back Konishi Roku in the leather and the back of the door. It's hard to see, but it's like arced like a rainbow from one side of the camera to the other. They only did that on the first 10,000 or so of these that were made, maybe a little more than that. And I just really wanted one that had that logo on it. And in addition to there just not being many of them made, the problem is that whatever this material, the body covering is, it has a tendency to crack and flake off. So you will sometimes see these cameras with the correct serial number where it should have that embossed logo, but it's completely missing. So to find one that's in good condition, that is the right year, and it still has the original Konishi Roku logo across the back door is quite special. So I was really excited to find this.
Yeah, that's neat.
But we have hit that time, and Ron G., your King Regula is a good segue into what we're hoping will be our next episode. This is episode 111, so we will do 112. We're still on a 3-week cadence, so that should mean that we will do it Monday, July 20th or the 21st for our oceanic friends. We're going to cover fixed lens rangefinders and SLRs. This is another request from the user list where they wanted us to kind of go over some of the fixed lens cameras. Like we've covered so many interchangeable lens systems, the Canon rangefinders, pretty much all the interchangeable lens SLRs. We've covered medium format. We haven't spent a ton of time on the fixed lens cameras. Many of them are excellent. When you consider, even if you do have an interchangeable lens SLR or rangefinder, a huge percentage of the time you probably have a 50 or a 45 millimeter lens on it anyway. So to get a camera that has a fixed lens under most shooting situations, you're not really even missing anything. So we hope to be able to open up the door to maybe some unloved models. The King Regulus certainly would apply. So Ron, if you want to come back in 3 weeks after you've had a chance to play with that one, you could give us your thoughts on some of those. And although there aren't quite as many, there are some SLRs with fixed lenses too. One of my favorites is the first Koa Flex, is a beautiful little leaf shutter fixed lens camera that's quite compact and fun to use if you can find one that works. As always, the topics and discussion on the Camerosity podcast are influenced by you guys. We said this at the beginning of the show before a lot of you joined, but we just hit 5 years since the first 2 episodes of the show were aired, and it's just unbelievable to think that we're still going. So who knows how much longer this will last? My kids want to know if we'll make it to episode 1,000, and I don't think so. I feel pretty confident we will never hit 1,000 episodes of the show, but we'll just keep going for as long as you guys are listening and want to join us, and we're willing to keep talking to you. So thank you guys for coming. This was an interesting show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good week, everybody. Take care. Till next time.
Mike, I'm still gunning for episode 828.
820. That's not going to happen.
For that film format.
No, sorry. I will be 1,000 years old before that happens. Good night.
Good night. See you, everyone.
Night, all.
All right. Now, how do we bury this episode? Otherwise, we're competing with all our listeners in buying through things, Buyeeing and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Someone pointed that out on Discord. They're like, you're going to ruin the Japanese market. It's like, I don't know. I honestly think we did more damage to people wanting to do it than maybe promoting it.